Hi, I'm Cheryl with Cheryl.wTf, your business coach. And today I'm joined by special guest Tiffany Vessey of Vessey Bookkeeping, and she'll be sharing with us some tips on how to prepare so that we have a smooth tax season. So Tiffany, welcome. Thanks for joining me. Can you tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
So thank you for inviting me on. I'm really glad to be here. I am an accountant with 22 years of experience, and I own my own company, and I do full service accounting. One of the things that I do is 1099 preparation for my clients. And I just love to start my 1099 prep around this time of the year so that it's smooth sailing for my clients.
Awesome. And now you work nationwide. You're not restricted to a particular state. Is that right?
No, I'm not restricted to a particular state. I do offer my services nationwide.
Awesome. So, as business owners, what do we need to know about 1099s and what should we be doing now to start preparing for tax season?
So the number one thing that you can do is go through your list of vendors and pull names and information for all of your vendors. You should have a W-9 on file for anyone that provided services to you. So that would be your landlord and accounting firms, engineering firms, architects, landscapers, the maid that comes in to clean your building, the gentleman that washes your windows, anything like that. If they provide a service, then they're subject to receiving a 1099.
Now, is there a dollar amount cutoff? I know there used to be, but I think the laws have changed recently.
It's not a cutoff, it's a floor. That's what
Okay.
we call it in accounting when there's a minimum that has to be met before you have to do something. And it's $600. So if anyone providing you services receives $600 or more, and they're not a corporation unless they're an attorney, you have to send them a 1099. Now, it's always in your best interest, if you're not sure, to just go ahead and send a 1099, because it's not going to create any problems for a corporation. If they get one, they'll be like, oh, interesting. But if you forget to send one, it can create problems for you, and you may actually end up having vendors request them because their tax preparers want to see them for their company.
Okay.
Now, I did mention, except for attorneys, attorneys get a 1099 regardless of whether or not they're a corporation.
Okay. So always send a 1099 to the attorneys.
Yeah, for some reason, the government doesn't trust them to tell the truth.
Oh, the irony.
Yeah, now there's several different kinds of 1099s. So the one that most people have to issue is the 1099 NEC. NEC stands for non-employee compensation. So that's all of the people that I rattled off. There's also a 1099 miss, which is miscellaneous, and that's for things like lottery winnings, gambling proceeds, various things like that. And your tax preparer or accountant can help you determine which ones you need to file. The more common but less used ones are the 1099 INT, which is for interest. So most people are familiar with getting that from their mortgage company for the interest they paid.
Right.
But if you receive interest on a loan that you've made, then you need to send one to the person who's paying you the interest, showing the amount of interest they've received or that they've paid.
Okay.
There's also the 1099-S, which is for real estate transactions, and those have to be sent to the seller for the total gains, profits, proceeds, whatever you want to call it, from the real estate transaction. And it's supposed to be sent by the person who closes the transaction. So that's usually the title company, but it can also be done by the real estate agent or the mortgage company.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I think in most states it's being sent by the title agent, or sometimes the escrow company. Some states they handle title and escrow separately.
right. And that it's whoever closes the sale is the one who's officially supposed to do it.
Right.
But I just wanted to let your followers know that they shouldn't be alarmed if it instead comes from the real estate agent or the mortgage company.
Yeah. Or attorneys sometimes. They end up handling the escrow and closing.
Yep. Now, talking about due dates, we get to have some fun with that because each different kind of 1099 is due on a different day.
They don't make anything easy, do they?
No, they don't.
Now, is it
So,
the same day every year or does it change?
no, they're usually pretty stable. The last time due dates for them changed was when the 1099 NEC was split off from the 1099 miss. And so the 1099 NEC has to be postmarked on or before January 31st. The recipients need to receive it within a reasonable mail time after that date. Generally speaking, the sooner you get them out, the less bugged you're going to be, because those are the ones required for people to file their taxes. And so you will get them coming out of the woodwork for those.
Yeah.
The
early
misses,
birds who want to file their taxes early.
yep, the
Yep.
misses, INTs, and S's are not due until the end of March. And so, and those are recipient due dates. Now, the IRS requires the 1099 NEC to be sent to them by the end of February. So you actually have to get it out to the recipient before you even have to send it to the IRS. But it is good practice that whenever you send out copies to recipients, that as long as you're confident the information is correct, you go ahead and send it to the IRS as well, so that you don't forget to send it to the IRS.
Yeah. Is there any kind of common scenario why somebody wouldn't send it to the IRS right away?
Well, if they aren't used to doing 1099s, or they don't have an accountant or bookkeeper helping them with their 1099s, it is common practice for them to send them to the recipients and wait to send the IRS copies until they receive confirmation from the recipients that the information is correct. However, if you've got a good bookkeeper or accountant, they're going to start bugging you now to get those W-9s.
Yeah.
And if you do it now, then when it's time to prep the 1099s, you already know that the information is correct because you've received that W-9 confirming the legal name, the tax ID, and the address that should be on the W-9.
So that's probably the thing people really should be doing right now is getting those W-9s if they don't already have them on file.
Yes. So when I take over a client, now is when I would start going through their list and start asking for W-9s. But I always recommend to my clients, to make their life easier, get a W-9 from everybody that you pay every time. That way you don't have to worry about whether or not you have a W-9 on file.
Right.
Now, a lot of people ask, do I have to get a new one every year? No, you only need a new W-9 when you're aware that information has changed. So if the company says, hey, our address changed, send the checks here.
Right.
Ask for a new W-9. If you're aware that the company is using a different name, including the DBA, which is doing business as, get a new W-9. If you get a notice from the IRS that says something about it was incorrect when you filed your W-9, then get a new W-9.
Right. Yeah. Yep. All right. Those are some really good kind of flags to help catch our attention.
Now, another really cool thing that I wanted to mention is almost all of the accounting programs out there nowadays will allow you to track your 1099s by simply checking a box in the vendor profile.
Oh.
So then you enter the tax information, and the accounting software can actually generate the reports of who you need to send your 1099s to, what amount it should be in, and what box it should go in.
Nice.
So
will they also generate the 1099 forms?
it depends on the software. Most of them have some kind of application, like for instance, QuickBooks Online has a provider built right into it where you'll go prepare 1099s from the vendor section and it'll walk you through it and then charge you for preparing them. There are third-party applications that can also be connected to the accounting software that will prepare them for you. Your bookkeeper or accountant should be able to assist you with that process. If you don't have one, you should absolutely reach out to a bookkeeper or accountant, because honestly, 1099s should only take you about 10 minutes if you've done the legwork on the beginning.
Right.
So for my clients where I'm getting W-9s and stuff like that, I start in November. So when I go to prepare their 1099s in January, it takes me maybe 15 minutes.
Right. Okay. Now I've had to file a lot of 1099s over the years. And so for anybody who's maybe running a micro business where you may only need to send out 2 or 3 1099s, you can do them manually. And in order to do that, you've got to go to the IRS website and request for them to mail you their paper forms. You can't print them off. So now is also the time to go and request those, because they take about 10 weeks to come in.
So you absolutely can do that. That is absolutely 100% of choice. I personally recommend to the people that I talk to who are only doing 2 or 3 that they actually reach out to tax1099.com. You can pay per 1099. You'll be able to file them with the federal and state agencies, because some states do require 1099s to be filed with them as well. And you can have them electronically delivered to the recipient for the same amount that you would pay for the 1099 forms and mailing. And you have to keep in mind, when you order the forms, you do have to have specific envelopes formatted so that the information that should be displayed in the window is displayed, but not the confidential numbers. And those aren't envelopes you can just grab off the shelf.
Right. Now, again, for the person who maybe only has to send 2 or 3, can they just send them in a regular envelope that's not windowed?
They absolutely can, as long as they make sure that the address is correct.
Yeah. So again, now that's obviously a very manual process, hand filling out forms and mailing them. You really don't want to do that if you're sending more than 2 or 3 of these.
Well, and that's why I love the tax1099.com, because you can pay per 1099 and it's actually a really cheap price. You just enter the information in. Nice. And you get electronic confirmation that the taxing agency has received it, which is the biggest concern when you manually file the forms, is did the IRS get them?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I've had plenty of times where the IRS told me they didn't receive something. They did. So yeah, I'll have to check out the tax1099.com myself. That sounds like a really great service.
Yeah. And I do offer a free 30-minute consultation. So if any of your followers just wanted to chat real quick about this, I'm happy to discuss it with them at no charge.
Oh, fantastic. All right. So Tiffany, is there anything else that we really need to know about 1099s and how to prep for them?
No, the biggest things to remember are just make sure that you're doing the correct form and that you're getting it to both the recipient and the government agency at the correct time. Because although I've never seen it enforced, there are allowances for those government agencies to charge penalties and interest for failing to file them. And if they get to that point, they're already mad at you. So the last thing you need is something else on there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, that's fantastic. I really appreciate all this helpful information. So Tiffany, can you tell me a little bit more about the services that you offer and how people can find you?
So I am on LinkedIn at Vessey Bookkeeping. I'm on Twitter at Vessey Bookkeep. I'm also on Facebook at Vessey Bookkeeping. And I can be reached at vesseybookkeeping@gmail.com. And I offer pretty much everything you would expect from an accounting firm, except audits, audited financials, and income tax returns. And all of my services are comprehensive. So if you were to say, have a payroll service with me, then it includes running the payroll, preparing the W-2s, and all of the other forms that are due with payroll. But unlike a lot of service providers, it also includes workers' comp audits, unemployment claim responses, unemployment audits, and responding to any payroll tax notices you might have, whether they predate me or not.
Nice.
So for those of you who hate your 1099s and need a bookkeeper, my bookkeeping services do include 1099 preparation at no extra charge.
That's awesome. All right. Well, Tiffany, thank you so much. I appreciate you joining me today, and I'll make sure all your contact information is in the description for the video as well.
Sounds wonderful. I look forward to that.
You blew my mind. 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 You blew my mind.